to Seriously Sus, a podcast exposing shadiness with a side eye, hosted by Nanette and Miranda. We explore crime trends, internet chaos, and cultural nonsense, and modern phenomena that just make you stop and ask one simple question. How did we get here? So get your side eye ready, because things are about to get seriously sus. Therapy speak going wild. How the internet diagnosed everyone. My boss gave me feedback.
Toxic.
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
My friend canceled dinner.
The trauma.
My boyfriend forgot to text me back.
What a narcissist.
My coworker disagreed with me.
Totally gaslighting you.
Zephyr, my dog, he ignored me.
He obviously has avoidant attachment style.
At this point, I'm genuinely afraid to leave the house.
And if we were talking about Maisie, she does have a history of emotional unavailability when food is involved.
Maisie isn't avoidant. She's just prioritizing snacks over relationships.
Welcome back to Seriously Sus. I'm Nanette.
And I'm Miranda. And today we're talking about one of the internet's favorite hobbies. Diagnosing absolutely everyone. Your ex, your boss, your parents, co-workers, neighbors, and occasionally your dog. Apparently, we now live in a world where nobody's rude anymore. They're toxic. And nobody lies. They gaslight. And nobody is selfish. They're a narcissist. Nobody's just having a bad day. They're all traumatized.
At some point, we stopped having annoying exes and started surviving narcissistic trauma bonds at the hands of every person who mildly inconvenienced us. And now, before anybody hears this episode title and immediately assumes we're about to spend an hour making fun of therapy, let's be very clear.
Happy Pride Month.
Let's be very clear. Okay, we're going to leave that one in there.
All right.
Let's be very clear. Therapy is good. We both eat that. Apparently, I need more of it.
When's your next appointment?
Next Wednesday, actually.
All right.
Oh, good Lord. Mental health treatment is good. Mental health awareness is good. And in a lot of ways, the increased openness around mental health has been one of the healthiest culture shifts in the last couple of decades.
I completely agree. A lot of people finally found language and experiences, like language for experiences that they had struggled with for years. Anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, all the alphabet mental things.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma, abuse. There are people who got help because of these conversations, because they became more mainstream. There are people who finally understood themselves because these concepts became more accessible. And that's a genuinely positive thing.
The problem isn't therapy. The problem is what happened when therapy language escaped therapy and got dropped into the social media content machine.
Nothing survives the content machine unchanged.
The internet looked at 100 years of psychological research and said, can we turn this into a personality quiz?
And preferably a 3-part series.
And then TikTok looked at the entire field of academic study and said, can we make this danceable?
Yeah, I'm sure they can. They make anything danceable.
Yeah, right?
Even the dogs aren't safe.
Poor Maisie has been diagnosed with avoidant attachment, gaslighting, separation anxiety, oppositional defiant disorder, and selective hearing.
I think she might have those last two.
The last two, 100%. But overall, I think the diagnosis is still dog.
Dog. What's interesting is that most of this language wasn't part of everyday conversation 20 or 30 years ago. People knew these concepts existed, but they weren't using them constantly and consistently. If somebody was selfish, we just called them selfish. If they were manipulative, they were manipulative. Difficult. They were a dick.
Exactly. It was simple, direct, and efficient.
Then therapy became more mainstream. Self-help became more mainstream. Mental health awareness became more mainstream. And again, most of that was a good thing. But somewhere along the way, we developed what I can only describe as diagnostic inflation.
I love that phrase because that's exactly what it feels like. Every behavior suddenly needed a bigger explanation. Every conflict needed a deeper meaning. Every annoying person required a psychological profile. The internet looked at ordinary human nonsense and said, what if we made this clinical?
Somewhere there's a guy who forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer, and he's being accused of weaponizing competence.
That chicken is innocent.
That chicken didn't ask to be part of this.
Or the guy who forgot to take out the trash and is now being trashed online as an emotional, unavailable narcissist with avoidant attachment tendencies.
And the trash is still sitting on the curb, wondering how it got pulled into all this.
I think we need to introduce a concept that we're going to revisit throughout this episode. We're calling it the therapy speak escalation ladder. This is where normal human behavior slowly evolves into a full psychological case study.
Exactly. Let's say your roommate eats your leftovers. Level 1, annoying. Level 2, inconsiderate. 3, toxic. Level 4, violating the boundaries. And level 5, definitely narcissistic abuse.
It was half a sandwich.
We ride at dawn!
And that's what's really fascinating me about this trend. The language keeps escalating. We don't just describe behavior anymore. We diagnose it and categorize it. We build complete psychological framework around it. And I understand why. Labels are satisfying.
I do love labels.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really key, though. Labels feel good. Human beings, they hate uncertainty. We hate not knowing why things happen. We hate messy explanations, and we hate gray areas.
Let's say a relationship ends. The honest explanation might be both people made mistakes. Maybe there was communication issues. Maybe they weren't compatible. Maybe the timing was really bad. Maybe life got complicated. That's probably the most realistic explanation. It's also deeply unsatisfying.
Very unsatisfying.
Now compare that to my ex was a narcissist. Suddenly the story is simple. There's a villain. There's an explanation, and there's certainty.
And social media absolutely loves certainty. Which brings us to the internet's favorite diagnosis.
Narcissism.
If social media is accurate, approximately 97% of the population has narcissistic personality disorder. Did you know that?
No, that's fascinating.
Which would make it one of the most common conditions in human history.
The word narcissist has become internet shorthand for people who upset me, or disagree with me, or broke up with me, or forgot to text back, or asked me to contribute equally to a group project.
The audacity.
For real. Oh my god, I hated those more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's classic narcissistic behavior there, obviously.
Obviously. I saw someone call a restaurant owner a narcissist because they wouldn't substitute 17 ingredients.
I believe it. At some point, narcissist became Yelp terminology.
Honestly, if social media is accurate, the DSM should just replace its entire diagnostic manual with one page that says, narcissism. Everybody has it.
Including the people that make the videos.
The thing is, actual narcissistic personality disorder is real. It's a legitimate diagnosis. Mental health professionals take it very seriously. But being a selfish asshole sometimes isn't the same thing as having a personality disorder.
Exactly. Everybody can be selfish. Everyone can be inconsiderate, immature. We all can be difficult. It's called being a person. The internet tends to treat personality disorders like character descriptions instead of clinical conditions. And those are not the same thing.
What's interesting is that people don't gravitate towards these labels because they're stupid. Not at all. They gravitate them because these labels solve a problem. They provide an explanation.
Human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. We want to understand why things happen. We want stories that make sense. We want causes and answers, and labels give us that. The problem is sometimes the answer is more complicated than the label, and social media isn't particularly good at rewarding complicated answers.
Can we talk about gaslighting for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it might be the most misused word on the internet. Actual gaslighting is a very specific form of manipulation. It's not just lying, it's not disagreement, and it's not remembering something differently. It's a deliberate effort to make someone doubt their own perception of reality. It's diabolical.
Absolutely. And as someone who experienced it at the hands of an abusive ex,
Like a real one, like super abusive.
actually an alcoholic abusive ex, I thought I was losing my damn mind,
Yeah,
and that we were in two different realities.
He was not just a dick.
No. I mean, it's hiding evidence. It's denying things that clearly happened. It's, for him, it was making up like totally revisionist history. And it makes you question your own memory, your judgment, and understanding of events. That's what gaslighting originally described. What it doesn't describe is every disagreement you've ever had.
Yeah, like when we saw someone online that said they were being gaslit by their husband because they thought that movie started at 7 and it started at 7:30.
That's not gaslighting, that's Ticketmaster.
Ticketmaster does cause suffering, but not that particular kind.
Although, if anyone could make me question reality, it would be Ticketmaster charging a $47 convenience fee on a $20 ticket. There's nothing convenient happening.
Yeah, I don't feel helped by that.
Nope.
And this is where language starts becoming important. And we've discussed this before, and we will continue to discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if every disagreement becomes gaslighting, eventually we lose the ability to describe actual gaslighting.
Exactly. And that's the idea. That we lose something when every behavior becomes a diagnosis. It is going to matter a lot as we continue this conversation.
One thing I've noticed is that almost all of these terms started out describing something very specific. Then they moved on to mainstream conversation, which was mostly fine, I guess. And then they hit social media and suddenly expanded to cover half of the human experience. And I think trauma might be one of the best examples of that.
I agree. And this is one of those conversations where it's very important to be careful because trauma is real. And trauma can have profound effects on people's lives. There are people carrying experiences that generally change the way they move through life. The problem isn't people are talking about trauma. The problem is the internet sometimes talks about trauma as though every unpleasant experience belongs in the same category.
Exactly. I think we've all seen examples of this. Someone has a bad boss and suddenly it's workplace trauma. They get embarrassed in high school and now it's a lifelong trauma. They get dumped after a 6-week relationship and suddenly they're out here discussing relationship trauma. And again, difficult experiences can absolutely affect us, but not every painful experience is trauma. It's like we had an example last week when I was on a cruise and I literally fell up the stairs in front of everybody at Deal or No Deal getting to the stage. That was embarrassing as shit, but not traumatic.
Exactly. Look at you. We're laughing about it now.
Right? It's only been a week.
Exactly. And that distinction often gets lost online. Painful and traumatic aren't necessarily the same things. Neither is being uncomfortable and traumatic. Embarrassing and traumatic aren't the same. And it's not minimizing anyone's experience. It's the exact opposite. When we use the same language for every difficult experience, we lose the ability to describe the truly life-altering ones.
I think social media sometimes struggles with the idea that discomfort can be a normal part of life.
Absolutely. Sometimes you're traumatized. Sometimes Tuesday just sucks. And those are different experiences.
I feel like social media has created this generation of people trying to process every inconvenience like it's a season finale or an origin story.
Sometimes the plot twist was that your day was annoying. You got cut off in traffic, not bitten by a radioactive spider.
Could be a cool day.
Yeah?
If social media met Maisie, she'd somehow end up with generational trauma because someone moved her favorite toy 3 feet to the left.
She'd absolutely participate in that narrative.
The more I think about it, the more I wonder if social media accidentally convinced people that discomfort itself is evidence that something is wrong.
That's such an interesting point. Because discomfort isn't automatically a sign of harm. Sometimes discomfort means you're learning something, or you're trying something new. Sometimes it means you're having a difficult conversation, and sometimes it means you're being held accountable. And sometimes it means life is simply being life.
It do be lifing.
Yeah?
Right. So nobody enjoys rejection. Nobody enjoys failure or criticism or awkwardness. But those are just all part of the human experience.
What's fascinating is that older self-help culture often focused on resilience, where modern social media culture often focuses on identification. Here's what you're feeling, here's why you're feeling it, and here's a label for it. And sometimes that's useful, but sometimes we're so busy analyzing experience that we never actually experience it.
Everything becomes content, everything becomes a symptom, and everything becomes evidence.
Exactly. It's like we've turned ordinary human emotions into an investigation.
And nowhere is this more obvious than TikTok.
Oh yes, the internet's largest unaccredited diagnostic clinic, open 24 hours a day, no appointment necessary.
Insurance not accepted.
Evidence optional.
I genuinely think if Zephyr or Maisie had their own TikTok account, they'd be diagnosed with 6 conditions before lunch.
And one of them would somehow be narcissism, despite them being dogs.
I swear, every third video starts with 5 signs you may not realize you have, and then it proceeds to describe something that applies to 90% of humanity.
You mean like, do you ever procrastinate? Do you ever lose your keys? Did you ever get distracted? Do you ever walk into a room and forget why you're there?
Not once, actually. Perfect brain here. Congratulations, you may have human existence. The next slide is always, do you sometimes get tired?
Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly. And here's the thing. ADHD is real. Nobody's discounting that. And millions of people generally have ADHD. Autism is real. Anxiety disorders are real. These conditions absolutely exist. But the issue is, everyone on social media now seems to have them, and they strip away the context.
Context doesn't go viral.
No, context is terrible content. Context sounds like, these symptoms may have causes. If they're significantly affecting your daily functioning, consider speaking with a qualified professional.
Nobody's sharing that.
Nope. Instead we get, if you ever lost your phone charger, here's probably why you have ADHD.
3 million views.
Minimum.
What's interesting is that I completely understand why people get pulled into this, because finding an explanation can be incredibly powerful. If you've struggled with something your whole life, hearing somebody describe an experience that sounds familiar can feel like a light bulb turning on.
Absolutely. And that's why I think it's important not to dismiss people who explore these ideas. Curiosity isn't the problem. Wanting to understand yourself isn't a problem. Looking for answers isn't the problem.
The problem is that social media often just skips over several steps.
Exactly. There's a huge difference between, this resonates with me, I should learn more about this, I wonder whether this applies to me, and I watched a 90-second video and now I have a diagnosis.
That is a very different journey.
Yeah, one involves curiosity and the other involves certainty. One involves actual clinical...
Right, one involves a doctor who went to
Right.
school to study these things.
And someone sent, how do I know if I have HDAD through...
Well, I think you...
You know,
That's your dyslexia coming
that
out.
it is in full form today, obviously. Yes, somebody sent it through an AI and generated a 10-question quiz on it.
Thank you, BuzzFeed.
Yeah. And then uncertainty is where the algorithm starts getting involved.
Can we talk about attachment styles? Because I have a theory.
Ooh, I'm excited already.
Attachment styles have become the zodiac signs of therapy culture.
How did I know that's where you were going?
All right. Now, to be clear, attachment theory is a legitimate area of research. We're not making fun of attachment theory per se. We're making fun of what the internet did to attachment theory.
Which is what the internet does to everything.
Exactly. Because every relationship conversation sounds like two people collecting Pokemon cards. I'm anxious attachment, and he's avoidant attachment. My last boyfriend was fearful avoidant.
And maybe that's true. Or maybe he's just terrible at texting. Both remain possibilities.
This is where Maisie and Zephyr actually have an advantage.
How?
Nobody expects them to text back.
Fair.
The internet really struggles with the possibility that someone might simply be bad at communication.
Truth. Every delayed response must be traced back to some formative event in 1998.
Like y'all ain't ever put your phone down, got distracted by doing something else, and completely forgot before.
Exactly.
What fascinates me is how quickly framework becomes identities online. A framework is supposed to help you understand behavior, and an identity just becomes who you are on a deeper level.
And that's such an important distinction because social media loves identities. Identities are stable, shareable, they're easy to build communities around. The problem is that people are more complicated than categories. Most of us don't fit neatly into little boxes all the time.
And yet the internet keeps handing out boxes.
And the algorithm barges right into the chat.
Like a Kool-Aid man.
Yes!
Honestly, the more we talk about this, the more I think the algorithm is the real main character of this story.
100%. Because people often discuss therapy speak as though it spread organically. And some of it did. But the algorithm definitely poured gasoline on it.
I swear, I get real Orwell 1984 newspeak vibes from any time we start doing stories for this.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what performs well online. Confidence, certainty, strong claims, definitive answers, Simple explanations.
Now think about what doesn't perform well: nuance, complexity, context, ambiguity. The phrase, "it depends."
The algorithm absolutely hates it depends. If it depends were a creator, it would have 6 followers, and one of them would be its mother. Not that there's anything wrong with that, Mom.
Nope. But yeah, the internet absolutely does. Imagine 2 videos. One algorithm says relationships are complex, human behavior is complicated, context matters. Video 2 says 5 signs you're dating a narcissist. Which one gets 10 million views?
I think we all know the answer.
Yep, and that's the real issue. The algorithm rewards certainty even when certainty isn't justified. It rewards simple explanations when reality is complicated. It rewards labels even when labels aren't the whole story.
Psychology is messy. People are messy, relationships are messy, and the algorithm wants to turn everything into a checklist.
And that's where I think things start getting distorted, because psychology was never designed to function as entertainment content. But it does now.
And once psychology becomes content, content starts shaping how people understand psychology.
And that leads us to what I think is the most interesting part of this entire conversation. The moment therapy language stopped being about understanding people and started becoming a way to judge them.
I think that's exactly what happened. Because originally, a lot of these concepts were descriptive. They were tools and frameworks. They were ways of understanding experiences and patterns. But somewhere along the way, though, they became something else. They became moral categories. Being labeled toxic online isn't just a description anymore. It's a verdict.
And that's where things started getting messy, because once the label becomes a moral judgment, people stop asking questions, because the label becomes the explanation. Think about how often you hear the word toxic now. Toxic relationships, toxic workplace, toxic friendship, toxic family, toxic coworkers, toxic social media, toxic fandom, and toxic positivity.
That's the weird one.
Yeah. We've reached the point where the word toxic is doing so much work that I'm honestly surprised it hasn't filed for workman's comp.
That word is carrying the entire internet on its back.
Right. Maisie can and will steal an entire salad.
And the internet would call that a toxic relationship you're in.
And I call it lunch theft.
The thing that fascinates me, though, is how rarely people define it. Everybody knows what they mean emotionally, but if you ask 10 people what toxic actually means, you'll probably get 10 different answers.
And that's because it became a catch-all term. It can mean abusive. It can mean manipulative. It can mean unhealthy. But it can also mean annoying. It can be someone who disagrees with you. It can be somebody who you think just posts too much on Facebook.
That bastard.
Right? The word has expanded so much that it's starting to lose precision. And as we always say, words matter.
Oh, they matter.
Precision matters. Definitions matter, especially when we're talking about serious issues.
Because if everything is toxic, then eventually nothing stands out.
If your generally abusive boss and your mildly irritating coworker both get the same label, we're losing information. We're flattening very different experiences into the same category.
And I think boundaries are another interesting example, because boundaries are one of those concepts that entered mainstream culture, and in a lot of ways, it's been incredibly healthy.
Absolutely. Learning that you're allowed to have boundaries is a good thing. Learning that you don't have to tolerate every behavior from every person all the time is a good thing.
But like every concept the internet gets a hold of, things got a little weird.
A little weird is putting it kindly.
I've seen people describe boundaries in ways that sound suspiciously like terms and conditions agreements.
Yes!
Here are my boundaries. You may not disagree with me. You may not challenge me. You may not express disappointment. You may not ask any follow-up questions. And you may not exist in ways I find inconvenient.
What you're describing isn't boundaries. That's a hostage negotiation. A boundary is something you set for yourself. It's about what you will do. It's not a mechanism for controlling other people. There's a difference between saying, I won't stay in this conversation where I'm being yelled at, and saying, you aren't allowed to disagree with me because it violates my boundaries.
Some people aren't setting boundaries anymore. They're issuing software updates.
Please review our new emotional terms and conditions.
One of those is healthy self-protection, and the other is trying to outsource emotional regulation to everyone around you.
And that's where some of the confusion comes from. Social media often presents healthy concepts in very simplified ways. The problem is once you remove all the nuance, people start applying those concepts in situations where they do not really fit.
Oh. Okay, I want to ask you a potentially controversial question.
Okay, good.
I'm not saying psychology became astrology,
But
sometimes the internet uses psychology the way the previous generations use astrology. I'm such a Taurus. It's so ADHD of me.
oh my god, that's such a thing a Cancer would do,
It's just my OCD.
right? I don't think that's controversial at all because what we're talking about isn't psychology itself. We're talking about internet culture, and we all know that's sus.
Mm-hmm.
Think
The
about
whole
it,
thing. The
right?
whole thing.
It's the whole reason we're here. But think about it. Human beings have always looked for framework that helped explain themselves and other people.
Every generation invents a new way to explain why they dated the wrong person.
Sometimes it was Mercury was in retrograde. Sometimes a personality test told you so. Sometimes it was self-help books, and sometimes it was birth order theory.
Yeah, that oldest burned daughter thing, though. Hold some water. It holds
I
some
agree
water.
with that.
Now it's attachment styles, ADHD checklists, trauma responses, and narcissism content.
The outcome appears unchanged.
And to be clear, those things are not equivalent scientifically, not even remotely, but socially, they sometimes get used in really similar ways.
People use them to explain behavior. They use them to understand relationships and to build identities. They use them to create communities. And sometimes they use them to explain literally everything.
Oh, like when someone explained an entire failed friendship through attachment theory?
Just attachment theory? Now that's impressive. Human relationships are usually at least 3 theories and a bad decision.
Right? The more we talk about this, the more I think the real story isn't therapy language at all. I think the real story is that people just really desperately want explanations.
Absolutely. Human beings are meaning-making machines. We don't like randomness. We don't like uncertainty. We do not like knowing why something happened. If a relationship ends, we want a reason. If somebody hurts us, we want an explanation. And if we're struggling, we want framework.
And labels provide that. Sometimes they provide comfort, sometimes they provide clarity, and sometimes they just genuinely help people understand themselves.
The danger is when the label becomes the entire story. Because no diagnosis, no attachment style, no personality framework or psychological concept can fully explain a human being. People are way messier than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, people are complicated has never gone viral. Let's start it though, guys. Hashtag people are complicated.
Absolutely. And you're right, because the internet prefers 7 signs your coworker is secretly a narcissistic energy vampire.
I'd click that.
You absolutely would.
So would you.
Okay, Truth.
You know, the strange thing about the whole conversation is that it started from a genuinely positive place, like so many things.
Mm-hmm.
More people are talking openly about mental health than ever before, and more people understand concepts like anxiety, depression, trauma, and abuse than previous generations ever did. And that is not nothing.
Not at all. In a lot of ways, that's real progress. There are people who finally sought treatment because they recognized themselves in someone else's story. There are people who escaped unhealthy situations because they finally had the language for what was happening. There are people who spent years believing they were broken and then discovered there was an actual name for what they were experiencing. Those are all really good things.
Which is why I think it's important not to swing too far in the other direction. Because sometimes when people criticize therapy culture, they end up sounding like they're criticizing mental health awareness itself. And that is not what we're doing.
That is absolutely not. Those aren't even the same thing.
Not even close.
The problem isn't that people learn psychological concepts. The problem is what happens when those concepts become oversimplified, decontextualized, and optimized for engagement. Because once that happens, we start losing things. And some of those losses are surprisingly significant.
One of the biggest risks is that we start flattening experiences that are actually very different from one another.
Let's take the relationship example. There are genuinely abusive relationships. There are manipulative relationships, unhealthy relationships, immature relationships, and there are incompatible relationships, and there are relationships that simply don't work.
And those are not the same thing. When online, they often get discussed as though they are.
And that's the problem because language helps us distinguish experiences. If every experience gets labeled abusive, eventually the word loses some of its power. If every disagreement becomes gaslighting, eventually people stop recognizing actual gaslighting. If every uncomfortable experience becomes trauma, eventually we stop distinguishing discomfort from trauma.
It's a little bit like using the word emergency for everything. If everything is emergency, eventually nobody knows if there's actually an emergency.
Exactly. Precision matters. As we always say, words matter. Meanings matter, particularly when we're talking about serious topics.
I think another consequence is something I call the self-diagnosis loop. It's when people start viewing every normal human experience through a clinical lens. You forgot something? Maybe it's ADHD. Don't want to go to a party? Probably social anxiety. You enjoy spending time alone? Oh, avoidant attachment. You feel nervous before a presentation? That's probably trauma. And to be clear, sometimes it genuinely is one of those things.
Or maybe you're like Zephyr and simply don't want anyone disrupting your morning outdoor time.
Completely reasonable position.
Or maybe people are just exhausting.
Also a possibility I can't argue with.
Yeah. The issue is not every experience needs a diagnosis. One of the strangest side effects of social media is that it can make being human feel pathological. Because human beings are inconsistent. We procrastinate, overthink, get distracted, feel insecure. We avoid difficult conversations and we make bad decisions. Sometimes we're confident, sometimes we're anxious. Sometimes we're generous, sometimes we're selfish assholes. That's not necessarily evidence of a disorder. That's evidence of being a person.
Which I guess is a disorder. I think that's...
Diagnosis? You exist!
Right, you're a person and that's really hard.
Right?
I think that's one reason so many people feel exhausted. Everything feels like it requires analysis now, and nothing can simply just exist.
Every feeling becomes a clue. Every behavior becomes a symptom. Every conflict becomes a case study. And eventually, you're not living your life anymore. You're constantly interpreting it.
What's fascinating is that so much of this comes back to certainty, because uncertainty is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to admit that we don't fully understand why something happened. It's uncomfortable to admit that people are complicated. And it's uncomfortable to admit that sometimes there isn't a neat explanation.
The internet hates uncertainty.
You know, my therapist has been saying this to me for years.
Yeah. The internet wants answers. Definitive answers. Immediate answers. And of course, shareable answers. And psychology doesn't always work that way. Human beings don't always work that way. Sometimes the honest answer is, I don't know. And sometimes the honest answer is, it's complicated. And sometimes the honest answer is, several things can be true at the same time.
Those answers are deeply unsatisfying online, but they're often the most accurate.
I think we need one more final therapy speak escalation ladder, for old time's sake.
Level 1, my friend forgot my birthday.
That hurts.
Level 2, my friend was inconsiderate.
Still reasonable.
Level 3, my friend is toxic.
Okay, we're escalating.
All right, 4, my friend violated my boundaries.
Oh, we're moving quickly now.
All right, level 5, my friend is a narcissistic gaslighter whose avoidant attachment style triggered my abandonment wound and caused secondary trauma.
She forgot a date.
Details. And they're currently writing a 17-part TikTok series about it.
Meanwhile, Maisie already ate the birthday cake.
And somehow she'll still be the healthiest one in this relationship.
And I think that's kind of the entire episode right there. Sometimes the thing is exactly what it appears to be. Not every situation needs a diagnosis. Not every behavior needs framework. Not every conflict is a clinical explanation.
So let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. Did social media democratize mental health knowledge, or did it turn psychology into astrology with clinical terminology? Oh, imagine people are about to get like their tattoos of their like diagnosis sign.
Oh my God, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. There's got to be a chart somewhere with a sign.
There's gotta be.
If not, there will be tomorrow, probably.
Part of the Prozac gang.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the answer is just yes.
Both?
Absolutely. And yeah, we know social media has helped millions of people access information that used to feel inaccessible. It helped normalize conversations that desperately needed to happen. It gave people a language for the experiences they couldn't previously explain. And that matters, and that's important. But it also flattened complex ideas into bite-sized content. It rewards certainty over nuance. It encouraged people to seek diagnosis where there might simply be human behavior.
Yeah, nothing like getting your diagnosis in a 90-second video, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Awareness expanded, but so did oversimplification.
And again, both things can be true at the same time.
The irony is that mental health awareness was successful. People care about psychology now more than ever. People are curious about human behavior, and people want to understand themselves.
That's not failure. That's actually a remarkable success story. The challenge is now remembering that understanding a concept isn't the same thing as being an expert in it, no matter what your TikTok person says. Knowing a term isn't the same thing as knowing how to apply it, nor is it having the actual medical background necessary to actually diagnose.
There's a reason people spend a small fortune to go to school to do that.
Right?
A large fortune, my bad.
Yeah. Watching content isn't the same thing as having context or having a therapist.
Right. Get y'all a therapist, guys.
Yeah, don't trust that YouTuber.
Right.
Don't trust us.
Yeah. We have therapists.
We don't, yeah. We're still working out our own shit. We're not about to tell you what shit you have.
Right? And maybe next time you're tempted to diagnose your coworker, your ex, your neighbor, your mom, boss, your dog, or the cashier got your coffee order wrong.
Just ask yourself a question. Is this actually a clinical condition? Or is this regular human nonsense?
And honestly, regular human nonsense explains a shocking percentage of history.
Possibly all of it.
Or, in Maisie's case, regular dog nonsense.
Honestly, most of her behavior can be explained by one of two things.
Food.
Food.
And the other?
Also food.
Sometimes someone is abusive. Sometimes someone is manipulative. Sometimes they're narcissistic. Or sometimes they're struggling with trauma. And sometimes...
your ex is just fucking annoying. And that's today's side-eye.
Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Seriously Sus. If you enjoyed today's discussion, we'd love to hear from you. What's a therapy term you think the internet has completely run into the ground? Let us know.
You can find us on social media at Seriously Sus Podcast. So send us your thoughts, your stories, your side-eyes, and your favorite example of internet psychology gone wild via our DMs or email us at seriouslysuspodcast@gmail.com.
And if today's episode taught us anything, it's that not every inconvenience is trauma. Not every disagreement is gaslighting. Not every one of your exes is a narcissist. And not every TikTok is a diagnostic tool. Sometimes people are just dicks.
Yep. And we also learned that Maisie and Zephyr still aren't going to text anyone back.
Classic avoidant attachment.
Or their dogs.
The experts remain divided.
And that's it for today. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay seriously sus.
Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Seriously Sus. We hope you enjoyed today's deep dive into therapy speak, internet diagnosis, and fascinating ways social media can take perfectly reasonable concept and drive it straight off a cliff. And if you enjoy the show, there are a few really easy ways to help us grow.
First, make sure you're subscribed or following the podcast wherever you listen, or please click subscribe on YouTube. It's completely free, and it helps make sure you never miss an episode.
And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or another platform that allows ratings and reviews, we'd really appreciate it if you take a minute to leave one. Reviews help more people discover the show, and they genuinely make a huge difference for small independent podcasts like us.
And if you know someone who would enjoy this episode, or someone who has diagnosed 3 exes, 2 coworkers, and their neighbor's dog as narcissist, share it with them.
Especially the dog.
The dog deserves an answer.
As always, thank you for spending part of your day with us. We know there are a lot of podcasts out there, and we're grateful you chose ours.
Until next time, remember, keep your side eyes sharp and stay seriously sus.
Outro music. Do, 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 do. Don't be a dick. Do, do, do.
Dogs deserve social justice.
Justice for Maisie.
And Zephyr.